Earlier in class, I explained the questions for scientific literacy and savvy skepticism in the context of day-to-day life. We also need to apply those ideas when we're thinking about research, though. Historically, journal articles have been considered to be a highly credible source. It was still important to question the study design, but overall, we were less concerned about the quality of journal articles compared to popular press articles. I feel a little old when I say the internet has changed that. This article is one symbol of the way that journal articles have changed. If you use the strategies you learned about earlier in class, you'd probably decide this was a scholarly source pretty quickly. The first part of the title might throw you off, but the rest of the title is more technical. There isn't a big picture close to the title or any visible advertising. The author's credentials also appear more scholarly, and the header says it's from a journal. The abstract also gives the impression that it's an empirical article. They refer to a study and use the first person in explaining it. This is the first paragraph of the article. You might pause the recording, or just pause, to skim it. So at first, this seems like it could make sense if it was edited a little bit. Then we get to the sentence about rapid event becoming green. Hopefully, you were more than a little perplexed about what that was saying. Good news is, very few legitimate articles are this hard to read. This one was actually written by a random text generator. Yep, it's completely bogus. So how's that happen? There are a combination of factors that come together to make it possible. The Fast Company article in the resources for this module explains it well, so I'm going to focus on what we can do to make sure we're looking at scholarly sources that are more credible. That's part of the reason we analyze every scholarly source, formally or informally. I also want to emphasize one thing. I don't think there are many articles like Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or that we'd actually end up confusing it for a legitimate scholarly source. I do think the article is a dramatic example and a dramatic reminder that we can't depend on an editor or a review process to determine the credibility of a study. Some journals are incredibly selective and only publish articles based on solid studies. So once we get to know about a certain journal and certain publishers, we can let our guard down a bit. And then we start to think about things like the file drawer problem that the Thinking Like a Psychological Scientist book mentions, but that's another topic. That said, it's important to note that not all of the journals indexed in the library databases are stringently reviewed. That's part of the reason your instructors might direct you to use a particular database to find information. Scholarly publication is a complex, rapidly changing industry right now, though, so it's best to assume you have to question the credibility of every article.